Arjuna has heard in the previous chapter about how Krishna pervades the entire creation through his energies. And now Arjuna wants to see the universal form of Krishna. Actually, Arjuna is a pure devotee of Krishna. And a pure devotee is interested only in seeing the form of the Lord that we see in front of our eyes now. Gokulananda standing before us playing the flute. This is what the pure devotee wants to see. However, for the benefit of posterity, of all the generations to come in the future, Arjuna wants to establish firmly that Krishna is indeed the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one of the things that provides proof or evidence for this is that he can demonstrate his universal form. This is one of the tests. Srila Prabhupada explains that if someone claims to be an incarnation of the Lord, then one of the things he must do or be able to do is to demonstrate his Virat Rupa or Vishvarupa or universal form, which is massive, the whole universe itself. In the early days of Iskcon, when Srila Prabhupada was in 26 2nd Avenue, New York, he was speaking about the universal form one time, and he was saying how this is evidence that Krishna is God. Then one young man who was somewhat intoxicated, he appeared and said, "Well, I can also demonstrate my universal form." So Prabhupada said, "Yes, please do so." So he stood up, stood on his toes, raised his hands and said, "Look, here is my universal form." Then everybody, of course, laughed. So universal form is not something like that. What Arjuna saw was so awe-inspiring and mind-boggling that Arjuna was shaken to the core. That sight was overwhelming. It cannot be described. Although Sanjaya has made attempts to describe in Arjuna's words what Arjuna was seeing. Arjuna was trying to verbalize what he was seeing, but words were not enough to experience Arjuna's vision of the universal form. The universal form is appreciated by those who do not appreciate Krishna's original transcendental form, Satchidananda Vigraha. Devotees are not very interested in the universal form. But because Arjuna was thinking about all of us, that he should convince us that Krishna is God, so he requested Krishna to settle matters once and for all. So please display your universal form, so there will be no doubt in the future about your godhood. Krishna obliges, and he speaks about his universal form and then gives Arjuna the required vision to see it. He says, "My dear Arjuna, no one before you has been able to see this vision, but I am empowering you with that vision to see." And then when Arjuna sees it and he starts describing it, after a while it becomes too much for him to take. And he says, "My dear Lord, now I want you to come back to your original two-armed form, which is the form that I want to see and I want to love." And then Krishna obliges. He returns first to a four-armed form and then to his original two-armed form. And Arjuna is pacified. And Krishna again glorifies the process of devotion and explains that it is only through undivided devotional service that one can know him. There is no other process by which we can understand Krishna. So once again, even though the main subject here is a universal form, and as I mentioned earlier, one of the 5 types of worshippers of the Supreme Lord are the worshippers of the universal form, nevertheless, in this chapter, Krishna concludes with the essence. And the essence is that we must become pure devotees of His.